Simplify Cloud Adoption Automation-Driven Transformation, a discussion by Cloud4C. And ladies and gentlemen, we're joined by our speakers in this session. First up, Karim Kalaawi, the Executive Vice President, Alliances MEA. Karim, an industry veteran with more than 25 years of professional experience covering a wide range of skills in business development, technology, sales management within the IT and telecom industries, with a focus on SaaS and cloud computing in Gulf and emerging markets across Europe, Middle East, and Africa. We're also joined by Sajja, the Global Head Cloud Engineering and Operations. Ram, being a SaaS model leader and a renowned infrastructure maintenance and a software engineer specialist with more than 2 decades of experience in the USA. Ram's experience spans across multiple industries and technologies such as AI, ML, SaaS, cloud computing, big data, and technology operations. He's somebody who's pioneered and developed commercial softwares for automated technology management of data centers and SaaS model, and has successfully implemented this model in telecom, banking, healthcare, and retail verticals. Well, thank you so much, Ram and Karim, for joining us. With this, we'd request you to kindly switch on your cameras, unmute yourself, and join us on the stage and screen. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is all happening in the World Cloud Show. Thank you so much, Ram and Karim, for joining us today.
Thank you, Bhavna.
Thank you very much for the intro.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Over to you, gentlemen.
Thank you. So let me share my screen so that we could, 1 second. So I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, yes, it is. Thank you.
Great, great. So I wanted to kick this session today with focusing a bit on what would be the new normal. Excuse me. What would be the new normal, specifically for the last, I would say, 12, 13 months, we have seen a significant change in CIO priorities. So while we looked at the traditional digital transformation, we've also seen an added urgency to launch products much faster, to give users the ability to work from anywhere. They say necessity is the mother of invention. Leveraging the digital tool belt, to create new innovation and ecosystems, streamline back office operations, introduce automations, RPA, robotic process engineering, to, let's say, minimize the impact of, let's say, IT workers that cannot service those systems, can do systems more efficiently, and more importantly, leverage new technologies like AI and machine learning, basically to speed up decision making. And finally, we've also noticed that in the last 12 to 15 months, there has been a substantial increase in security concerns and threats of fraud in the digital ecosystem. Now, this leads me to one of the very few positives, if I were to say something like that, that came out of COVID-19, which is that it actually accelerated the digital transformation. There was a recent study that showed that in the region, basically COVID accelerated the move by more than 5 years. And in fact, if you look at it, there are 2 trends that help speed up this acceleration. So on a personal level, right, people like me and you, when they got stuck at home, when you weren't able to go to work, etc., you ended up changing your behavior, right, and adopting digital as a way of life. So if you look at some tidbits, and we try to make it as relevant as possible to the Saudi market. If you look in terms of medicine, right? Telemedicine is on the rise. You would see that Sajja in Saudi Arabia, you had more than 967,000 people benefiting from, let's say, telemedicine and remote consultations and the like. Look at on a entertainment level, right? everybody and their mother went to streaming services like Netflix. But if we look specifically at our region, Shahid saw at minimum an increase of 21% of their user base in the last 12 months. And finally, e-commerce has boomed. Nobody wants to go out, expose themselves, etc., um, to COVID, and they ended up doing most of their shopping online. Now that combined with the added internet penetration and adoption, where we see now Saudi Arabia is at 95.7% internet penetration, which is one of the highest in the world. So those trends actually takes me into the next area. So what does this mean, right? If we look at the foundational technologies of digital transformation, and here I'm looking at more or less 5 or 6 areas. We There was a study that came out a few days ago that we thought it's extremely relevant to our discussion today. So I actually used one of their slides, right? So this is a study done by KPMG, and they were looking at the foundational technologies, the tech investments, and what are the areas that are seeing increased investments. So if I look at cloud, we look at typically artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotic process engineering, blockchain, 5G, cloud itself, as well as cyber currencies. And I've highlighted a couple because these are most relevant to our discussion today. The reason I'm highlighting those two are twofold. First, this is an area where we feel we can bring in a lot of value as Cloud 4C. But more importantly, these two areas in specific, cloud and RPA, are areas where Saudi Arabia has significantly outpaced the rest of the world in terms of investments and adoption or adoption trends. So, having spoken about that and specifically cloud, right? There are certain issues when it comes to cloud, specifically in terms of cloud adoption. So, what we've seen over the last, let's say, 4 or 5 years is that there are some teething problems, right? In a lot of instances, CIOs, CTOs, they focus on too narrow a solution or an initiative that limits the scope of the cloud as well as the benefits that can be gotten out of it. A good example of that is pilot stall, where you're doing a pilot, but in a lot of the cases, activities stop at the pilot side. They never go beyond that. And a lot of the cases is because of the narrow focus, people don't get the full value of the transition. The flip side of that is the cloud gridlock. If you have too many things running at the same time, things start to back up and fill up the queue where the local IT team cannot handle the capability, or they don't have the necessary capabilities or the resources to do all of those cloud engagements. Now, if we drill down a bit more, a lot of cloud engagements typically start with a lift and shift. And for those not familiar with the terminology, lift and shift means from the forklift model where you come in from on-prem, you take a server and you move it to cloud. This, in a lot of the cases, people only look at that. And if you stop there, you're realizing only 25% of the benefits of moving to cloud. I'll talk about this a bit more in a second. And finally, cloud chaos. If you don't have an overarching vision of what you want to achieve, there is no management, there is no, let's say, executive sponsorships. In reality, a lot of the cloud projects, I don't want to say fail, but they don't realize their potential. And they become too narrow, too focused on a very, very, let's say, tactical goal and miss the big picture. And now what I would like to do, I want to do a quick poll that is pertinent to this topic. In essence, this is the poll that I would like to ask you. Where are you in your cloud adoption journey? There are four options. Are you already using cloud, planning to use it in the next 3 to 6 months, or the next 6 to 9 months, or a reality we don't have any plans for cloud in the coming 12 months? I'm not sure I'm getting the results of the poll. So I'll give it another 10 seconds or so. Ram, do you see the results?
No, I don't, Karim.
Okay. So let me, in the interest,
Yeah,
sorry.
the team member is just sharing the results with you. It's just happening. Just allow us a minute to
Okay.
curate it, and we'll get back with the results. He's just messaging you. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. I'm sorry. Unfortunately, due to the fact that I'm presenting, I cannot see the full screen. So apologies for that. So let's give it another 15, 20 seconds for the results to come up. And this is just to give us a high level overview of where are most customers in their cloud adoption journey. We have our internal benchmarks. We see most of our.
We do have the results. If you don't mind, I'll just announce them right now.
Sure.
All right. So already using cloud has got 53%. Planning in the next 3 to 6 months has 13%. We've got planning in the next 6 to 9 months at 7%, and not planning to adopt cloud anytime sooner is 27%. So this is the overall percentage-wise pie of your poll question. Over to you, Karim.
Thank you very much, Bhavana. So this tells me one thing. So between people that are today on cloud or planning to be on cloud in the short term within 2021, we're talking about 75% of people, which is a relatively high number, but still, I would say there's still about 27% of the people attending this call who haven't or are not planning to adopt cloud. And while this is understandable, a lot of the cases it has to do with the topics I talked before, but also there is not enough guidance in a lot of instances or not talking to the right partner. And in that, I would like to walk you over the next few slides over Cloud4C's background and how can we help in addressing this transition. So the whole idea is Cloud4C would work with you on every step of the way. Whether it is the most important part in the vast majority of cases is there is no business value justification of going to cloud. So one of the things that we typically do with our customers is we do a proper business value assessment, including a TCO analysis. What will it take if you stay on cloud, on premise versus moving to cloud? But more importantly, what's your additional investment? What is your expected return on investment? What are the timelines that you'd be looking at? There's another part on this, which is the part around compliance, and I will get to that in a second. We can also look at the different areas that comprise cloud. So when we start with the lift and shift, it is a journey towards a purpose, right? And a lot of the cases, we continue beyond the lift and shift with an optimization phase, but more importantly, there are many other follow-ups to that, primarily around app modernization, leveraging technologies like big data, AI, machine learning, everything that a cloud introducing. And this becomes the true cloud adoption story. And more importantly, cloud itself is a foundation for digital transformation. It is not the end goal. However, the most important part about cloud is that it should be considered as a provider like a utility, right? You don't need to worry about all the details that go behind it. And this is an area where Cloud4C can help you a lot. Um, Ram, which I'll introduce in a couple of minutes, is going to give you a bit of an overview of how we can make this as painless as possible and treat it like a utility, right? When you flip on the switch, you expect the light to turn on. You don't worry whether can the fuse handle it? Is the electricity within the normal range? All of those things, they happen automatically. This is what we want to provide you. Now, who is Cloud4C? I'm going to spend the next 3 minutes just as an overview before I hand over um, to Ram. Cloud4C is a global company. We're present in 25 countries and 52 locations. So specifically, if I look into Middle East, we have presence both in Jeddah and Riyadh. We have a local office in Saudi Arabia. Our regional headquarters is in UAE, but we're also present in Qatar and Turkey. In specific, if I want to talk about our Middle East journey, right? We started this 7 years ago. We set up our footprint, our beachhead in Dubai in 2014. In 2015, we launched our partnership with SAP. So we have an SAP practice. We're one of the leading providers of SAP HANA Enterprise Cloud. In 2016, we partnered with SAP and set up the local data center in Jeddah for our partnership with them to provide the services in country. We continued our expansion in 2017 with Qatar and Abu Dhabi. In 2018, we increased our expansion in Saudi Arabia with a local DC in Riyadh. And we then expanded not just into the private cloud, but also into the public cloud with Azure in Kuwait and Saudi Arabia. We've also launched our cloud managed services in 2018 on Amazon Web Services. 2019 was a breakthrough year for us. This is where we became really well known in the cloud. So we became an Azure Expert MSP with Microsoft. We've launched our services and practices around DevOps and app modernization. And we've expanded our portfolio with AWS and GCP, Google Cloud Platform, and did multiple major cloud deals across service operators, service providers. Finally, in 2020, we added multi-cloud capabilities to be able to service multiple, to service a customer across multiple cloud providers, working with AWS, Oracle Cloud infrastructure, as well as Azure. And we've also achieved, we're one of the, I think, less than 10 partners globally that has achieved 5 advanced specializations with Microsoft. This is a short list. We have a lot more customers, but I thought these logos might be relevant to most of you in the audience. Now, earlier I talked about security. One of the most critical components of clouds is actually the security component. And while we have the breadth as well as the depth in cybersecurity, we do offer our managed security services as well as our own security operations center. What we have been what we became very well known for is ensuring our customers fulfill their global compliance needs. So whether these are industry specific or worldwide standards, we have engineered our offering from the ground up to ensure that whatever compliance regulation is required, so for example, in Saudi Arabia, we're talking to SAMA, we ensure that those platforms, the systems, and all components adhere to the regulatory standards imposed in that specific country. I think in terms of expertise, I touched a bit on this, but just to put things in context, Cloud4C is a company of about 2,000 employees, out of which we have more than 1,000 public cloud experts, and we service around 4,000 customers globally. We have a strategic partnership with Microsoft, with SAP, as well as we're building up that capacity with AWS and GCP. We have achieved the highest let's say, certification standard with Microsoft, and we're on the same track both with AWS as well as Google, and most recently with OCI. And this would be very relevant for two reasons. One, obviously, Oracle is a proud sponsor of this event, but also OCI does have a local presence in Saudi, and we're working with a number of customers to leverage that capabilities. So I want to wrap up with just one slide, which is basically application focused cloud managed services is our brand, right? Our model is to provide a factory-based approach to migrations, but more importantly, our business model is all about managed services. And a very proud fact is that 4 out of 5 of our customers are actually a managed services customers. So whether we're talking about application management, enterprise managed services, as well as advanced managed services, hosted over any type of cloud, whether we're talking a private cloud, our own Cloud4C data centers in Saudi Arabia, the public cloud, Microsoft, Oracle, AWS, GCP, hybrid setups working with AWS Outposts or Azure Stack or Antos or other systems, we can provide an end-to-end managed service story, more importantly, with an SLA at the application level, which is a unique value proposition. Like I told you earlier, all what you care about is flicking the electric switch. This is the way we'd want you to consume cloud services. You don't have to worry how the plumbing works. You just utilize it. And that is actually enabled by our amazing automation story. So I'm going to hand over to Ram. He will tell you more about what we've done in this space. Ram, over to you.
Thanks, Karim. Can you stop sharing, please? Hello, everybody. In the interest of time, I'll go through a number of these very quickly. As you can see, we're all post-COVID situation. More and more businesses are moving towards the digital transformation and moving to the cloud and trying to retire out of their existing data centers and modernizing the existing data centers as well to be able to operate more remotely. So what we specialize in is, whether you want to decommission your data centers and move them over to a public cloud, or if you want to come up with a seamless adoption, or architect for future-proofing your data centers and cost optimization reasons. These are the main reasons that you would go to a public cloud. Now, when you start your journey on this, you always have a typical migration framework that you want to work with, just showing you an example of how complex that can look. In this session today, I wanted to walk you through what are the complexities involved in going through the cloud journey. It could be a simple lift and shift operation, or you can take the full journey of trying to get into a microservices-based application modernization as well. Now, depending on which end goal you want to set yourself to and migrate towards, the complexity obviously increases, and that's where some of the ideas that I'm about to discuss with you would probably help you in your journey. So if you start out with your cloud migration framework and just talk about how do you take your infrastructure into the hyperscaler or more of a private cloud with a provider like us or anybody else, there are different stages that you need to go through. And if you are talking about application modernization along the way, then you have a whole lot of other discussions that you need to have, including discovery of what are the dependencies of your applications, data layers, data sovereignty, and all kinds of other issues that come along with it. Not only that, you also need to talk about whether you want to modernize these applications as well. Maybe you're in Java, now you want to move to Python or Golang or something else and whatnot. The minute you start this journey into the cloud adoption, you have to change your development methodology as well. If you were in a waterfall methodology before or some other kind of software development, you got to move into the agile development path so that you can fully use the DevOps pipeline that you have readily available in your hyperscaler framework. This is a typical example that we give out to our customers on how you would go about if you do app modernization and do adopt microservices framework. As you can see, if it was a simple application that was running on-prem, once you move it into the hyperscaler and want to adopt microservices, you're going to have to include a lot of other technologies into the mix. It looks a little daunting and too many things that you need to worry about, but all of this that you see on the screen can be automated and can be executed at the click of a button. How do we do that? Well, when you do the cloud native application, you have to come up with a proper process for it. You have to re-platform your application, your code assessment techniques, your re-engineering, your entire DevOps operation, post-application deployment, and continuous software development as well can all be automated through a variety of tools. I've just given you a sample of what you would use if you were to take on this journey in getting there. If you make a change and want to go into the hyperscaler cloud environment, you truly don't get the benefits of it unless you use the end-to-end lifecycle of DevOps. If you don't do that, your microservices app modernization is a non-starter anyway. But if you're just doing a lift and shift, your cost optimization may not be as good looking as you would want it to be. But if you were to do that along with your DevOps pipeline and integrate either into the native tools that are provided by these hyperscalers or adopt some of the custom pipelines that somebody like us can provide it to you, there's a whole lot more benefit you get out of it. Similarly, robotic process automation is also a key factor that we bring into the mix. We generally recommend that our customers look into as they get onto this hyperscaler journey. There's a lot of L0, L1 tasks that could be quite easily automated through these RPA processes as well. Now, how do we make this cloud adoption easy for our customers? Well, to start with, why does a lot of customers want to go to hyperscalers or some other type of cloud environment, mainly from an availability standpoint? So if you're talking about 99.9, fairly easily achievable, even if you're on-prem. If you want to put one more 9 next to it or 2 more, it becomes a little bit more complex, and you need to have a proper architecture for it. Now, how do you achieve that? In our view, you achieve that through minimal human touch. So our entire philosophy is, if you look at the building blocks of what it takes to get to 99.99, the last 9 is really people. As soon as you eliminate that last layer or minimize that last layer, there you get the higher availability there. And to which, what we say is, you should have an automated command center where whenever an issue happens, they should be automatically resolved through your bots, whether it is UI-based bots or a backend artificial intelligence-based bot. Whenever you need to do something, you should be able to do that with minimal human touch. Say, for example, if you're applying a patch and you got 1,000 servers that you got to apply on, 1,000 VMs you got to apply on, you should be able to do that at a click of a button so that the result is always consistent and the same end result happens each time. If you have several service requests that come from your various teams within your organization, as soon as a service request comes in, it should be attached to a standard operating procedure, and that standard operating procedure should execute itself automatically without human intervention. If you have this level of automation, if your entire cloud application management is based on a platform, then it is easier to achieve the success that you want. As an example, from our organization, where we manage over 4,000 customers, we basically came up with a platform called SHOP, Self-Healing Operations Platform, which is a microservices-based platform that basically helps you in automating a variety of tasks that you routinely do using your engineers. Not only that, it also helps you in preventing outages or reducing the downtime if an outage does happen by doing a lot of the activities that you would normally do using your engineers. In addition to having the self-healing and the automation and all these other tool sets that you need to have, you should also have a hybrid cloud management platform. If you're always going to have some assets on one hyperscaler and maybe some on-prem or some other location, if you have to run around and manage it through different platforms and portfolios, it could be a big challenge. So there we offer something called a universal cloud platform. That's our product, but there are other products that you could be using as well in your ability to manage your hybrid cloud environment. How do we do all this? Well, to begin with, on multi-cloud capabilities, you should have a plethora of skill sets either built in-house or have some partners like us or somebody else to deliver these to you. Now, when you start with this, it is truly from compliance to how to manage your infrastructure on the hyperscalers to various data analytics products, database products, application products that are readily available in the marketplaces that you need to deploy. And for this, it can also be a little bit daunting. So it always helps to have a partner that specializes in these areas, like Karim was telling you, a particular level of certification and maturity in the ability to deliver these on hyperscalers would be very helpful. One of the key areas that you got to focus on is managed services, security services. There's a plethora of tools, both native as well as commercially available tools that you can deploy in your hyperscaler environment. But you need to set up this very strong security footprint to be able to continue the same levels of security you have. It's easy. It's a little easier when it is on-prem. When you have moved into a different environment, other factors come into play. So security strategy is a must as you're entering into this journey. Disaster recovery is also a very key factor. You have to look at the cloud environment you're going into, and if they have a DC DR type of environment, great. Otherwise, you could do a DC in one hyperscaler and have a DR in another location. I'll give you an example of one of our customers that we're working with in KSA, Al Faisalia Group, where they needed to move their SAP ecosystem to a cloud environment. So we've offered them our enterprise cloud option. They've come and adopted their migrated their SAP into our enterprise cloud. But then their disaster recovery is set up on Azure. So we are the DC for them, and Azure is the DR for them. So it is a very nice synergistic partnership we have with Azure as well in the region, and the customer has been able to save a lot of money in the process as well as higher availability because of our modern way of service delivery that we do in this space. Another example I can tell you about is a regulatory authority in KSA. Again, similar experience. They moved to our virtual private cloud for their SAP workload with Oracle database. And then we were readily SAMA and PCI compliant right from day one, just because of the compliances that Karim was talking about earlier. And they're also benefiting from our AIOps driven managed services offering. So very simple and easy, clean migrations that have taken place in a matter of weeks and not months and months of planning. So this is what you could do with a level of mature planning and somebody that can help you with in the journey. Now, some of the things that we do for them are what I'm showing on the screen, basically a portfolio of DevOps services that they need to have in order for all of this to function smoothly and also to be able to migrate to the cloud environment very quickly instead of taking a long period of time to deploy. Now, this is where, when you talk about cloud adoption and application modernization, one of the things that comes into play is, okay, what does a partner do and what do I do and what are the different responsibilities? When you look at your migration path, I think the bottom layer where it says Cloud 4C and below can be given off to somebody to do it. But the first part where the application design, the functional design part of it, not the technical, and coding and testing and all those should either be done in-house by the customer or bring some other partner to help them with their journey. But these are the two layers that you need to break off. And if you see, you will be focused on your business requirements and coding your business applications and not worry about the rest of the operational nightmare that comes with any application that you have to manage in-house. So that's the beauty of going with a microservices-based approach into hyperscalers and helps you a long way. Typical cloud approach that you want to take is assess and plan your migration, but after that, you want to automate as much as possible during your migration, during your modernization, your management of it, and then continuous optimization as you run live operations afterwards. Some of the offerings, as Karim was saying, we have a full suite of offering on Oracle Cloud. So for those of you that are interested, we can have further conversations at the end of this session. And we do offer multiple ways of moving from on-prem to Oracle Cloud. And one of the key areas that I often talk about when I come to KSA is basically about data sovereignty and data localization. Now, if you are already on Oracle, you probably already know this on how to do sharding and do geo-separation of your data and whatnot. This is, again, another area of expertise that we have. I happen to head the security operations of our organization as well, so I can tell you confidently there is a lot of security offerings that we can bring to help you in this region with our experience in the area. Lastly, I want to leave you with the impression that Cloud 4C is an applications-focused managed services provider. We provide SLAs at the application layer, end-to-end managed services from security to infrastructure to migration, anything you name it. Thank you for the time, and I'd be more than happy to take any questions at this point. Back to you, Bob, now.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ram and Karim, for joining us and giving us your valuable time. Well, in the interest of time, we would have to move to the panel discussion right now. But thank you once again for joining us today.